Howdy ho. How we doing? It is freezing cold out. I love it. I'm getting ready to go for a hike. I finally have an entire day off. I am so behind on everything. I'm sure you can all relate, or most of you can relate. Because I am now working 500 jobs. Well, not really. I'm a worker bee. I don't know if anyone else is like this. I just need to feel purposeful. So it's not that I can't have downtime, but if I have downtime, I need to be doing something. Now, I'm a homebody at heart. If my living situation was a little bit better, I would probably spend more time at home, which it might be a blessing that there are some bumps and bruises right now because it is forcing me out of the house. And I'm already kind of taken myself out of the game. Like I haven't done much with my adventure group. There's just been so much going on though. I honestly haven't had the time, but I just took another little part-time job. We'll see how that goes. I would love to work a little bit remotely from home doing like marketing or admin. I'm doing a little bit of marketing on the side for my friend's business and I used to work for her, so I'm familiar with the model. I'm just learning how to do it through constant contact. That's something I've never done before, but yeah, there's really not much that I can't do except if it's like intensely math related. Like I always say, you don't want me to do your taxes, but I can pretty much, I've thrown myself into work environments and I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I did that with serving because I had catered for years, and catering and serving are not the same thing. And I've done that, outdoor education. I just threw myself into that. That's all really new for me in the last 3 years. But yeah, it's been interesting. Scrambling a little bit for work because I am trying very hard to move back out on my own. That is like the biggest goal for me right now. I really like my privacy. I really am craving peace. I like being on my own. So fingers crossed for that. But I'm at one of my favorite spots and I ran into a guy in my hiking group and it was so nice to see him. And he doesn't often come on groups because he can only do like the easier to moderate stuff, but he's joined us for a couple hikes and it was just so nice to talk to him and shoot the breeze. And, I love when his recall is amazing. Like he's somebody that is really listening. He's not just talking to talk. And he's like, yeah, I remember you telling me this, that, and the other thing. And I remember you saying this to me. And I remember you saying that to me. And I was like, wow, that's such a beautiful thing that he actually listens when somebody talks to him. Because I'm sure he's not just doing that with me. It's just his personality. And he's a lovely human being. So don't you love that when you run into somebody that you haven't seen in a while and you get to have this nice little conversation out in the freezing cold, drinking your brew. But he's a very endearing person. And I do feel bad that I have not done a lot in my hiking group, but things have been wild lately, just all over the place. My poor car. Good Lord, my car has cost me over $2,000. And there is $1,000 more of work to be done, but I found an amazing mechanic and I'm always nervous being a woman getting taken advantage of. And these people have been awesome. And they assured me that everything that one more thing needs to be done, but they actually told me to go to like a big tire place in Asheville to get the last little bit done. And then there's one more bigger thing, but they did everything they had to do to get me safely to New Jersey back in January to see my kids. I'm really, really grateful. If you're in the Brevard area, it's Eldridge and they're awesome. And then Charlie's Tires gave me 4 new tires, but I brought my car in thinking it was one thing and it's all the things. So that's been overwhelming. It's been over $2,000. There's $1,000 more of work that needs to be done. I just can't do it right now. And then my tooth extraction was $2,000. So it has been over $4,000 in the last 3 months of my life, which is very overwhelming. And then there was Helene and I was unscathed living in Brevard, thank God, but it very much affected me monetarily in my work, which, guess what? I'm not complaining about, because, you know, food, water, shelter, I mean, all my other needs were being met. I had so many little earth angels stepping in to help me. It's amazing how it's always the people that you know the least, people I haven't even met in person, that helped. I cannot thank you enough. You have no idea what you did for me. And I am eternally grateful, really, from the depths of my being. Thank you, because some of you are on here. And so that's why I took another little part-time job, because $4,000, shelling out $4,000 in the last 3 months, that was a heartbreaker. And, you know, it was funny because setting the goal to move out on my own and being super stoked about, like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna do this. I can do this. And then my car, I was like, why? But it's okay. It'll all work out. It always does, right? It always does. But what I really wanted to talk about is, I have a dear friend in my hiking group, and he's just a really nice guy. And I'm so grateful that I have such good people in my life, even though they're not like near me. And he has some stuff going on in his life, and he was like, I loved that he was very honest and direct. And he's like, yeah, when these specific things happen, I don't handle it well. And, you know, I tried to be supportive and encouraging. And then he's like, if I were in the situation you were in, I don't know that I would be able to hold it together. And I just posted something on Facebook a couple days ago of, you know, my family's had a lot of loss, and my story is essentially everybody's story, and your story is my story. I really believe that. It's just the threads that connect us. And so there's a lot of people who don't like to share their story, or they don't like to talk. They think it's like, I'm trying to think of the language that I've heard people say, but there are people who think that sharing their story is like, maybe they consider it oversharing, or they feel like they're taking away from other people's stuff. There's a time and a place for everything. You know, I'm just here talking to my phone right now. But I share this because what I said to my friend is, the people out there that you see help using their social media presence and channels to help other people overcome their challenges, or probably because they have not had the easiest life. And like I was saying about Pivot Point, that I love the intentionality and the purpose and the passion behind all of it. You can become bitter, you can become better. You know, my whole goal has been taking my mess and making it my message. I'm going to go from trauma to triumph. I'm going to take my pain, and I'm going to, you know, for me, like, purpose plus passion equals orgasm. You know what I mean? Like, really, like, that does it for me. So my only alternative is to take the pain and take the heartbreak and take the grief and take the trauma and do something with it. And that's been my goal. So, you know, I shared, and it's only because the holidays just trudge up so much crap. And, you know, some years I'm totally fine. I think Helene, like COVID kind of did this. I think Helene just, I don't know, you reassess when you go through some type of catastrophe. It just does something to you, existentially and emotionally and mentally and psychologically. So my sister's anniversary is coming up. She passed away December 13th. And then my mom was diagnosed on Christmas. And I just had a unique childhood. This isn't to like make myself look special. You know, my life wasn't so much harder than everybody else. my life might have been harder than some people, and there are people who've had it way harder than I'll ever have it. So, I don't know what it's like to live in a third world country with water that contains a ton of bacteria, and we have to figure out a way to clean the water so we could drink it. And my mom's not didn't carry a basket on her head for 8 hours, just to go sell stuff so we could have a grain of rice. I don't know what that life is like, So I'm very privileged, regardless of what I went through. But, we went through some things. So my sister passed. She was very young. She was 23. I was only 13. I was 8 years old when I became an aunt. So her kids were 4 and 2 years old when she passed. And then we raised my nieces as if they were our own. So it was essentially like they were my sisters. So from 13 on until they passed, they were living with us and then next door to us. They passed at 18 and 15 within 4 months of each other. And then just a couple years later, my brother passed tragically at 39. And then 15 months later, my mom passed at 60. So, they were all fairly young. Even my mother, 60's young. I think 60's young. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. And then in all of that, you had alcoholism and addiction and forms of abuse and just craziness and the loss of other people and regular life stuff. And, it was a lot. And so I don't share that because I want people to feel sorry for me. I share it because that's how I'm able to help other people. Being in the type of marriage that I was in really thrusted me forward into the field of domestic assault, sexual assault and domestic violence. And, I have a lot of experience with suicidal ideation and attempts with, myself personally and intimate people in my life, and then extended people in my world. And so I worked a lot in suicide prevention and postvention. I worked really closely with our suicide specialist at Ocean County College, where I worked in the counseling center. And then when I was in the intensive outpatient program, my first one-on-one client, first time out the gate, we're sitting there and we're in a session and he was like, I'm going to take my life tonight. So, yeah, I have some experience with that kind of stuff, and all of that helps me help other people. And so what I sent my friend yesterday, and I have no idea if he watched it or not, was this video of a lovely woman who is one of the longest living. She's one of the oldest Holocaust survivors right now. And her story is incredible. And she talks about what a gift life is and how to cultivate joy. And that woman saw more atrocities and horrors, and she watched all of her family and friends be killed. And again, I am that type of person where listening to her story and watching her videos helps me. Not in a way of gloating because, my life becomes so much more glamorous than hers, but it's perspective. It's well, I'll never know what that's like. And thank God for that, because I can't imagine. And so this spark from this woman, her essence, the purity of her perspective, the fact that she can still go on when she was every day living as if this is it. I have no idea if I'm going to be here. Imagine that. Years of your life of, I don't know if I'm going to be here or not. I have no idea what my fate is. Every day being in such intense survival mode, being surrounded by people who loathe you. They think you're the bane of existence, and their whole job is to ensure that you're miserable and that you're probably going to die. I just can't imagine living so intimately with my potential executioners. So perspective is everything, And I'm going to link her video in the comments below. I've been following her for years. I saw her on a podcast years ago. I'm still living in New Jersey. Dr. Ranga Chatterjee out of the UK. He might be in Manchester, England, but he's definitely in England. And I watched her and I was like, oh my gosh. And he's a fabulous podcast, by the way. It's a wellness-based podcast, but he's a medical doctor who is really fed up with the mainstream medical model. And so he's extremely balanced in his approach to medicine. And I really appreciate that about him. But yeah, she's Dr. Edith. I forget her last name. And I follow her on Instagram too. She's like in her 90s. Like, this woman's like 1 year younger than God at this point. And what a beautiful gift she is to humanity. So I think perspective is everything. Most of the people that go into the mental health field, most of the people that go into the business of being a helper or a support or an advocate or an activist have seen some things. They've been through some things. So it's very intentional. It's a very it's a purpose-driven, service-oriented career path. And that's for a reason. And so I just wanted to touch on that. To me, it's an honor. It's a privilege. And it's an honor for me to be able to share my experience and share some of the very real practical tools that have helped. And really, YouTube University was extremely helpful. That's how I found all of these people. That's how I found Dr. Edith. It's how I found Dr. Ranga Chatterjee. It's how I find all of these people that I sit and I listen to and I think, wow. And so many of them, like Dr. Ranga Chatterjee, being Indian, because a lot of India has migrated to Manchester, England. My dear friend Kamal in Italy, her family's from India. And I think I've talked about her before on here. And they, her parents still live in Manchester, but she now lives in Italy. So that's very common. And he talks about, Indian parents have very specific expectations for their kids and what they're supposed to be doing. And Dr. Ranga Chatterjee talks openly about how hard that was and how he had to come to terms with that. And there was a real battle between him and his father. And he gets very vulnerable and deep. And so do people like Jordan Peterson, who's broken down and cried in podcasts. And he has such a deep love for his family, whether you agree with him or not, whether you like him or not. These are people that I watch that are able to humble themselves publicly, and they share some of their trials and tribulations. And I think sharing your story with other people is just wildly helpful. And of course, again, I've said this in other videos, what works for me may not work for you. But if I can come on here and just help one person and just say, hey, try this, or hey, listen to this podcast, or take a look at this person's channel or their Instagram account. You never know what that's going to do for somebody. And so I'm not sitting here saying that you need to go and, fully invest and entrench yourself in Holocaust history to feel better about your life. And nor is that a tactic to minimize any of your traumas or tragedies or heartbreak or personal experiences at all. I never felt like that minimized what I've been through or what I was going through. It just helped me put my life in perspective. Holding space for yourself is just as important as seeking people that are able to hold space for you. And holding space for yourself is radical acceptance. It's radical, compassion for yourself and what you're enduring. Because I don't know anybody's life who's really easy. I don't really think anybody has it easy. Life just seems to be getting harder and harder and harder. And on that note, I just wanted to say one thing that I find very interesting, and I think people might want to have my head for this. Please don't take this out of context. This is not me saying that I don't have the utmost, deepest compassion and concern for people living in their cars and tents right now. But I do want to shed a truth bomb on the reality of what is happening in America. So I love camping. and I love being in a tent. And I jumped into a car camping group. You can go on Facebook and you can find the group. It's just car camping. That's all it says. And like most people, I thought I'm going to learn really cool tips, tricks, and tools on how to car camp more efficiently or whatever. And it turns out that half of America is living in their cars right now. This is not me inflating those statistics. Go into the group. A lot of people get frustrated with the group because they're like, oh, I joined this thinking I was going to learn how to car camp, and everybody is teaching you how to live in your cars. There are many, many creative ways to live in your car comfortably and stay warm in these temperatures, like buying a Jackery and then an electric blanket, filling up a Nalgene bottle or a hot water bottle with hot water and putting it at the foot of your sleeping bag. I am not diminishing and minimizing what's happening here in Western North Carolina. My heart breaks for those people. As a matter of fact, I asked my roommate, we have a third bedroom, and I was like, why don't we invite a lineman in to stay here? Why don't we bring in somebody who doesn't have warmth? That's not up to me. And he's not keen on that idea. When I move out on my own, I could potentially be able to help people out in that way, but I can't do that right now. But I do want people to know that there are people, we have this really bad habit of calling anyone who doesn't live the way society dictates that we should live as homeless. And if you go into this car camping group, everybody in there super resents being called homeless. They're home free. That's what they call themselves, home free. And I agree. There are so many clever ways that you could live in your car right now to save money. You know, back when I was living in upstate South Carolina, I met a couple people who were doing this, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I had no idea how popular it was. Now, a lot of people are working remotely doing this, so they do have a job. Some people they're traveling all over the United States as a way to see the country. And they're doing Lyft and Uber Eats and online surveys and getting serving jobs or bartending jobs and staying in one place for a season and making as much money as they can. So they're literally just getting jobs wherever they end up. They tell you the safest places to park your car. You can join Planet Fitness for $20 and you can get a workout in, or you can just shower there every day. Cracker Barrels, hospitals, and Walmarts are the safest parking lots. I just want to share all of this because this is not as, oh my God, let's feel sorry for every person that's doing this. It's heartbreaking that people are being forced into it. And a lot of the people that became extended car campers, car living, they have been forced into it. A lot of them are on the West Coast. They can't afford their lives anymore. You know, it's expensive out there. People are really struggling. They're really struggling. So I just wanted to lend a different perspective on that. I want people to attempt to see things through a different lens. If that's another opportunity for me to shed some light in a different way, it's really how you look at everything. So I drive a Subaru Crosstrek. It's tiny. And I got really curious. There were people posting that they were living in their Subaru Crosstrek. So I went on YouTube. You can YouTube video after video of people living in their cars. Not vans, not RVs, not campers, cars. And there are 2 or 3 guys that I found that set up their Crosstrek. I mean, they have solar panels on the roof. You can use Reflectix on your windows. They teach you how to build gutters outside your windows so you can keep your windows open on a rainy day. They teach you how to keep your hatchback open so you're not draining the battery. There's like something you could do to the latch so that you're not using the battery, and then things that you can connect to the back of your car. It doesn't necessarily need to be a tent, so you can have an extension room and like hang out. It's really, really wild. Some of these people are insanely creative. So I think we are going to see a big uptick in car living. This is not something new. I mean, there are people who've admitted in the group that they've been living in their cars for 3 years, 4 years now. So this is happening nationally. And I just wanted to shed a little bit of light on the reality of that and bring some attention to it, because that's a big fucking deal. You know what I mean? Jelly bean? Anywho, I love you to pieces. I'm going to go hiking now. Have the best day possible.